Hi, I'm the lone journalist for KRAZ TV. Another book review. And what a great book it is. I've been waiting a long time to do this subject. Alexander Hamilton. And it is by Ron Chernow. Seminal work, of course. Oh, let's see. It's Penguin Press, 2004. Alexander Hamilton. I guess there's no need to say much more about any descriptors on the front cover. A graduate of Yale and Cambridge, Ron Chernow won the National Book Award in 1990 for his first book, The House of Morgan, which the Modern Library cited as one of the 100 best nonfiction books of the 20th century. His second book, The Warburgs, won the Eccles Award as the best business book of '93. His biography of John D. Rockefeller. I'll be right back. His biography of John D. Rockefeller, Titan, was a national bestseller and National Book Critics Club Book Circle Award finalist. Both Time Magazine and New York Times listed it as among 10 best books of 1998. Chernow lives in Brooklyn, New York. Alexander Hamilton is a pivotal figure in early American history, and he's considered one of the founding fathers, and he wrote the Constitution. But here's the inside cover. Ron Chernow, whom the New York Times called as elegant an architect of monumental histories as we've seen in decades, brings to startling life the man who was the principal designer of the federal government, the catalyst for the emergence of the two-party system, the patron saint of Wall Street, and the object of ardent idolatry as well as vehemently loathing by his peers. Alexander Hamilton was arguably the most important figure in American history who never attained the presidency, but he had a far more lasting impact than many who did. An illegitimate, largely self-taught orphan from the Caribbean, Hamilton rose with stunning speed to become George Washington's aide-de-camp, a battlefield hero, a member of the Constitutional Convention, the leading author of the Federalist Papers, and the head of the Federalist Party. As the first Treasury Secretary, he forged America's tax and budget system, custom service, Coast Guard, and central bank. With masterful storytelling skills, Chernow offers the whole sweep of Hamilton's turbulent life. His exotic, brutal upbringing, his brilliant military, legal, and financial exploits, his titanic feuds with Jefferson, Madison, Adams, and Monroe, his shocking illicit romances, his enlightened abolitionism, and his famous death in a duel with Aaron Burr in July of 1804. Throughout, Chernow blends Hamilton's public and private selves to present a fully rounded portrait of this handsome, witty, controversial genius and his poignant relations with his wife, Eliza, and their 8 children. Hamilton's countless exploits never cramped his prolific literary labors. Chernow brings to light nearly 50 previously undiscovered essays as he explores Hamilton's fiery journalism, his youthful poetry, his magisterial state papers, and his revealing missives to colleagues and friends. Moreover, he conjures up richly nuanced portraits of Hamilton's celebrated peers. Here are Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Monroe, Madison, and Burr, and as they have seldom been seen before, with all their shortcomings as well as their oft-sung triumphs. This engrossing narrative dispels the stereotype of the Founding Fathers is quaint. Wooden figures, and shows that for all their greatness they were passionate, fallible human beings. Alexander Hamilton figured prominently in almost every major political episode of late 18th century America. He was so pivotal in the nation's early years that his absorbing saga, rendered in Chernow's vivid prose, offers a riveting account of America's founding era from the Revolutionary War to the foundation of the first federal government and beyond. Oh, there is so much to learn about this guy, and he was vainglorious, and he always was wanting to get into the military. I don't know why, but actually he was one of the impetus and wrote for West Point and a Naval Academy, so he was big into establishing that. He ghostwrote many of George Washington's papers, and George left it to him. He said, well, use the right language because I trust you. And so it was an amazing... He was the most prolific writer. He wrote probably millions of words, if not a million easily. When somebody asked him his opinion, he would send 70 and 80 pages of diatribe and dialogue. So he was a writer. Now, Daniel Webster was called America's greatest orator, but I would say that this guy here, Alexander Hamilton, was the most prolific writer. And they were Federalists. Now, when they finally got into because George Washington picked him as a Secretary of War, I think. I can't remember. I know he's a Treasury Secretary. But they needed money, and they decided to tax whiskey, and that's where in 1792 Whiskey Rebellion, and there were people out in Pennsylvania that were really raising hell, and I can say that on Zero Channel. And so they went out there. I mean, tell you, Hamilton and Washington got on the horse and rode over there, and they rounded up a few people, and they actually had a little war. It was an amazing story, but it's a true story. He started a national bank because he wanted a federal system of the Treasury. If it wrote in there that the Treasury was to make the money, well, he might as well be the bank. So he did keep America out of debt, and he also found ingenious other ways. He did, like he said, they did the customs and all that, but he was always egging for war. He was hoping that America would take over and go to Spain. I mean, go to South America and take over Spanish colonies and all of that. So I'd say he was maybe a warmonger. I don't know, but it's expansionism. His mother and father, when he lived on the little island of Nevis, had 3 slaves, and when his dad moved away or became destitute, and the wife, she rented out her slaves, and after that he came north and found a way to stay up here in America, but he did not like slavery. After that, I mean, I don't know if he condoned it much, but I think he was a fervent abolitionist. But anyway, some of his other exploits before the Aaron Burr thing is he was always fussing. And there was the Federalists before the Republicans. Now, Jefferson brought in the Republican Party. He was called a Democratic Republican. And though they were always feuding and fussing about nuances in the law. And so it was an amazing, amazing time. And he lived to be 49 years old. But he always would write venom. He was venomous about some of his writings and all that, and I guess that's what got him into trouble with Burr. But he did write a letter, and he used the word despicable. And there was a notorious newspaper writer, I think his name was Cheatham, and all he did was go around and stir up trouble. And he showed the letter to Burr, and just egged him on and egged him on. I think that was the impetus of the fight was somebody else involved in it to get it going. And they said really the duel was over the one adjective, despicable. And of course, Hamilton wouldn't take it back, and he really didn't want to shoot, and he always said, and his son was killed about 2 years before this in a duel, and it really bothered him, but he still went ahead with the duel. But it was amazing. Now he had a premonition that he would die in this duel, but he said, I'm not going to shoot Burr. He said, I'm going to shoot it off in the air or waste my shot, because maybe Burr will lower his gun or not shoot or miss too, and they'd figure it out. But alas, that did not happen. So he was shot, and it took him 31 hours to die, and he was pretty remorseful about what had happened, all that, and leaving his wife and all that. But he said he would not back down, and that was part of his one of his problems that he had, is just that he could not reconcile easily, so it just goes on and on. But anyways, he died on July the 12th, 1804, and his wife lived for 50 more years. Isn't that amazing? She was 95 when she passed away, and she was a frequent guest at many of the and until 1848 or so, with the other presidents when they had dinners and stuff. She had Fillmore and Jackson and Van Buren and Polk. She met them all and was there, and so they always had revered Hamilton for a long, long time. But he did have shortcomings, but he did help draft a thing. Now, he felt that the Constitution was a flawed document, but if you look in the Declaration of Independence, it's flawed also, but other people wrote that, and Jefferson and that. So anyways, I could go on and on about the story, but you'll just have to read it. But it is a seminal work, and like they say in here, Chernow, the author, has found many essays, and a lot of these papers and state governments and all of that still hold some of the archives. The pistols that were used are still around, and he almost went to war with France. He did not like France in the end, but they did reconcile, and so, but he was always looking for a fight somewhere, and he stuck his nose in a lot of affairs, and some good and some not so good, but he remained true to his values, and that's what I guess concerned him the most. Anyway, get the book like we did at the Tucson, Pima County Libraries, where we got ours. I'm sure you can get yours, and it is a very fascinating, and it took a long time to read this book because I read every word of it, and I've learned so much more, and I have learned so many more things about so many other people like Webster and founding fathers and other people, and Jackson and all this, and my opinion has changed somewhat of them, but history you can't change because it's what's happened. So anyways, I guess I'm just fluttering about here, but get the book and really read it, because you'll have a great insight, and you'll learn so much more about how America got started in our early trials and tribulations. He was an Anglophile, and Jefferson was a Francophile. Well, with that, I better go out, because I could sit here and carry on, and then I'd have to look in the book for references and all that, but I liked it. Bye.